The conference room on the Zephyrian flagship was filled with the Empire's finest military minds. Admiral Kexathera stood before a massive holographic display showing a small blue planet orbiting a yellow star. The planet looked peaceful from space, with white clouds swirling over green and brown continents. "This is our next target," Kexathera announced to his officers. "The third planet in this system. The natives call it Earth." Commander Velnox leaned forward in his chair. "What? Do we know about their defenses, Admiral?" Kexathera waved his hand dismissively. "They have primitive chemical rockets and basic nuclear weapons. Their technology is at least 300 years behind ours. They fight among themselves constantly and have no unified government. This will be the easiest conquest in our Empire's history." The other officers murmured in agreement. The Zephyrian Empire had conquered 47 worlds in the past century. Each time, they had faced desperate resistance from species far more advanced than these humans appeared to be. Yet every species had fallen to their superior technology and military might. "How many ships should we send?" asked Captain Zorath. 200 vessels should be more than enough," Kexathera replied. "We want to make this quick. The sooner we add this planet to our empire, the sooner we can move on to more challenging conquests." Far across the galaxy, Dr. Lisa Martinez sat in the Deep Space Monitoring Station in Colorado. She had been tracking unusual energy signatures for weeks. The readings were unlike anything in their databases. As she studied the data on her computer screen, her heart began to race. "This can't be right," she whispered to herself. She ran the calculations again. The energy signatures were moving toward Earth at incredible speed. Whatever was creating these readings was massive, and there were many of them. Lisa picked up her phone and dialed a secure number. "General Collins, this is Dr. Martinez at Deep Space Monitoring. We have a situation. I'm reading multiple large objects approaching our solar system. Sir, I think we're about to have visitors." General Jack Collins had been expecting this call for 20 years. He had hoped it would never come, but he had prepared for it every day since taking command of the secret Earth Defense Initiative. "How long do we have, Doctor?" "Based on their current speed, approximately 72 hours until they reach Earth orbit." "Thank you, Doctor. Please send all your data to my secure terminal immediately." Collins hung up the phone and activated a communication system that had been dormant for years. "This is Collins. Code Red Alert. All defense stations. This is not a drill. Unknown hostile fleet approaching Earth. Estimated arrival in 72 hours. Across the planet, hidden facilities began to power up." Captain Tony Walsh received the alert while stationed aboard the USS Constitution, a warship that officially did not exist. The ship was part of a secret fleet built using technology that the public believed was still science fiction. "All hands to battle stations," Walsh announced over the ship's communication system. "This is what we've been training for." In an underground bunker beneath the Rocky Mountains, Colonel Amy Brooks activated systems that had been waiting in standby mode for decades. Banks of computers came online, displaying tactical information about Earth's orbital defense platforms. These weapons had been built in secret, disguised as communications satellites and space stations. Dr. Karen White worked frantically in her laboratory, making final adjustments to the energy weapons that had been installed on the hidden defense platforms. She had spent 15 years developing these systems, hoping they would never be needed. Now she had less than 3 days to make sure they would work perfectly. The Zephyrian fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of Earth's solar system. Admiral Kexathera studied the displays showing the small planet ahead of them. Primitive radio signals filled the space around the world. The humans were still using electromagnetic communications, proving how far behind they were technologically. "Begin the approach," Kexathera ordered. "Standard conquest formation. We'll give them one chance to surrender before we begin bombardment." As the alien fleet moved toward Earth, detection systems that had been hidden throughout the solar system began tracking their approach. Commander Pete Johnson, stationed on the secret Luna base on the far side of Earth's moon, watched as 200 enemy contacts appeared on his screens. "Luna base to Earth Defense Command," Johnson reported. "Hostile," Fleet confirmed. 200 vessels, various sizes. Largest ships appear to be approximately 2 kilometers in length. General Collins stood in the main command center, watching displays that showed the approaching threat. Around him, officers who had trained for this moment worked calmly at their stations. "All stations report ready, sir," reported Major Steve Parker. "Very well," Collins replied. "Send the message to all world leaders. Tell them the wolves are at the door." Within hours, presidents and prime ministers around the world received secure communications informing them that humanity's greatest fear was about to become reality. But unlike the divided world that the aliens expected to find, Earth's leaders had been secretly preparing for this day for decades. The Zephyrian fleet reached Earth's outer atmosphere and took positions around the planet. Admiral Kexathara opened a communication channel, broadcasting to the entire world in the humans' primitive languages. "People of Earth," his voice echoed across every radio and television on the planet. "I am Admiral Kexathara of the Zephyrian Empire. Your world is now under our control. Surrender immediately and you will be treated fairly as subjects of our empire. Resist, and your cities will burn." In the Earth Defense Command Center, General Collins smiled grimly. "Send our response, Major Parker." The reply came not in words but in action. Hidden defense platforms throughout Earth's orbital space suddenly powered up and became visible on the Zephyrian sensors. Energy weapons that had been disguised as simple satellites revealed their true nature as they locked onto the alien ships. Lieutenant Nicole Hayes, piloting one of Earth's secret prototype fighters, launched from a hidden base inside a hollowed-out asteroid. Her ship and dozens like it had been built using technology reverse-engineered from crashed alien probes that the public never knew about. Admiral Kexathara stared at his displays in shock. Where moments before his sensors had shown a defenseless world surrounded by primitive satellites, he now saw a planet bristling with advanced weapons. Energy readings indicated that some of these systems were nearly as powerful as Zephyrian technology. "How is this possible?" he demanded. "Our intelligence reports showed no advanced technology." Before his officers could answer, the first wave of human weapons opened fire. Beams of concentrated energy lanced out from the orbital platforms, striking the nearest Zephyrian ships. The aliens' shields flared, and several vessels suffered significant damage from the first volley. Captain Tony Walsh led the USS Constitution and 5 sister ships as they emerged from hiding behind Earth's moon. The human vessels were smaller than the Zephyrian ships, but they moved with incredible speed and precision. "All ships, engage at will," Walsh commanded. "Show them what happens when you threaten Earth." The battle for Earth had begun, and the Zephyrian Empire was about to learn that they had made the worst mistake in their history. The humans they had expected to conquer easily were not the primitive species their intelligence had promised. Instead, they faced an enemy that had been preparing for this moment for decades, an enemy that would fight with a desperation and determination that the Zephyrians could not understand. As explosions lit up the space around Earth, Admiral Kexathara realized that this would not be the easy conquest he had promised his emperor. The humans were fighting back with technology that should not have existed, and they were fighting with a fury that suggested they would never surrender. The space around Earth erupted into chaos as human defense systems came online. Admiral Kexathara watched in horror as his fleet's shields were overwhelmed by weapons that should not have existed on this primitive world. "Return fire," he screamed at his weapons officers. "Destroy those platforms!" Zephyrian plasma cannons discharged massive bursts of energy toward Earth's orbital defenses. Several human platforms exploded in brilliant flashes of light. But for every platform destroyed, 3 more revealed themselves from hiding. Commander Pete Johnson coordinated the Luna-based defense grid from his hidden command center. The base had been built inside natural caves on the moon's far side, invisible to Earth-based telescopes and alien sensors alike. "Firing sequence 7, execute now," he ordered. Massive railguns emerged from concealed positions across the lunar surface. These weapons fired projectiles at incredible velocity, turning simple metal slugs into devastating kinetic weapons. The first salvo struck a Zephyrian cruiser, punching through its shields and hull like paper. Dr. Karen White monitored the performance of her energy weapons from her underground laboratory. Years of theoretical work were being put to the ultimate test. Her screens showed power levels, targeting data, and damage assessments flowing in real time. "Orbital Platform 7 is reporting critical damage," her assistant called out. "Switch to backup power and keep firing," Karen replied without looking up from her calculations. "Platform 12, adjust your targeting angle by 2 degrees. You're missing their weak spots." The battle was not going as Admiral Kexathara had planned. His ships were designed to fight other spacefaring civilizations with known technology and predictable tactics. The humans were using weapons and strategies that defied his understanding of their supposed technological level. Lieutenant Nicole Hayes piloted her fighter through the debris of destroyed alien ships. Her craft was small and fast, designed for hit-and-run attacks against much larger vessels. She locked onto a Zephyrian destroyer and fired a concentrated burst from her plasma cannons. "Direct hit on target 7, she reported over the communication channel. "Their rear shields are down." "Copy that, Nicole," came the reply from Captain Tony Walsh aboard the USS Constitution. "We're moving in to finish them off." The human capital ships were marvels of engineering that had been developed in complete secrecy. They combined the best of human innovation with technology recovered from alien crashes over the past 50 years. The Constitution and her sister ships moved through space with deadly grace, their weapons tearing through Zephyrian hulls. Sergeant Danny Cruz operated a ground-based missile battery hidden in the mountains of Colorado. His weapons were designed to reach orbit and beyond, carrying warheads that could crack the toughest alien armor. "Control, this is Ground Station Alpha. I have a clear shot at the large vessel over the Pacific." "Take the shot, Danny," came the reply from Major Steve Parker in the command center. The missile streaked upward through Earth's atmosphere, its advanced guidance system locking onto the alien flagship. Admiral Kexathara's vessel shuddered as the warhead detonated against its shields, sending cascades of energy across its hull. "Damage report," Kexathara demanded. "Shield generators 3 and 7 are offline," his engineering officer reported. "Hull breaches on decks 12 through 15. We're losing atmosphere." The Admiral could not believe what was happening. His fleet was being systematically destroyed by a species that their intelligence had dismissed as primitives. How had the humans hidden such advanced technology? The answer lay in decades of secret preparation. When the first alien probe had crashed in New Mexico in 1947, world leaders had made a decision that remained classified to this day. They would prepare for the inevitable return of whoever had sent the probe. Colonel Amy Brooks had been part of that preparation for her entire military career. She watched the battle from her command bunker, coordinating defensive systems across the globe. "European Defense Grid, report status." "All systems operational," came the reply from London. "We're tracking 12 enemy vessels over the Atlantic. Moving to engage." Similar reports came in from Asia, Australia, and South America. The secret defense network spanned the entire planet, a testament to human cooperation in the face of existential threat. Dr. Benjamin Clark worked frantically in his laboratory, analyzing debris and sensor data from the destroyed alien ships. "I'm seeing some interesting patterns in their technology," he reported to General Collins. "Their weapons are powerful but inflexible. They're not adapting to our tactics." "Can we exploit that?" Collins asked. "Already working on it," Benjamin replied. "Give me 10 minutes and I'll have targeting solutions for their weak points." The Zephyrian fleet was learning that human tactics were unlike anything they had encountered before. Other species they had conquered fought defensively, trying to protect their worlds until the inevitable surrender. The humans were actively hunting the alien ships, pursuing damaged vessels and finishing them off with ruthless efficiency. Captain Maria Lopez led a squadron of human destroyers in pursuit of fleeing Zephyrian ships. Her vessels were faster than their alien counterparts, and her crews had trained for years in high-speed combat maneuvers. "Target their engines," she ordered her weapons officer. "Don't let any of them escape to warn their fleet." Engineer Lucy Thompson monitored the battle from the engineering decks of the Constitution. She was already working on ways to adapt captured Zephyrian technology for human use. "Captain Walsh, I'm reading some interesting energy patterns from that disabled alien ship. Can you figure out how their systems work?" Walsh asked. "Give me a boarding party in 30 minutes, Lucy replied. "I'll have their weapon systems analyzed and ready for integration into our ships." This was perhaps the most shocking aspect of the human response to the Zephyrian invasion. Not only were they fighting back with unexpected technology, but they were also adapting and improving their weapons in real time based on captured alien systems. Admiral Kexathera realized that his fleet was facing not just advanced weapons, but an enemy that learned and adapted faster than any species he had ever encountered. Human ships were already incorporating Zephyrian technology into their own systems, making them more dangerous with each passing hour. "All ships, prepare for tactical withdrawal," he finally ordered. "Sir?" his first officer questioned. "We've never retreated from a primitive world." "Look at your displays," Kexathera snapped. "We've lost over half our fleet. These are not primitives. These are warriors who have been preparing for us far longer than we realized." As the surviving Zephyrian ships began to pull back from Earth, they found that the humans were not content to simply repel the invasion. Human vessels pursued them, harassing their retreat and destroying any ship that showed signs of damage or system failure. Lieutenant Colonel Chris Davis commanded the pursuit forces from his flagship. "Don't let them regroup," he ordered his captains. "Any ship that falls behind gets destroyed. We can't allow them to return with intelligence about our capabilities." The battle around Earth was turning into a rout. What had begun as a confident invasion by a superior alien force was becoming a desperate fight for survival. The Zephyrian Empire had awakened something far more dangerous than they could have imagined. As his fleet limped away from Earth, Admiral Kexathera stared at the tactical displays showing the extent of his losses. Nearly 60% of his ships were destroyed or disabled. The survivors were damaged and demoralized. But the humans were not finished with them yet. As the alien fleet fled into deep space, human ships followed them, beginning a hunt that would span star systems and change the balance of power in the galaxy forever. The surviving Zephyrian ships fled through space, their crews traumatized by the devastating defeat at Earth. Admiral Kexathera had lost more than half his fleet to a species that was supposed to be primitive and defenseless. But as his remaining vessels limped toward the edge of the solar system, they discovered that their nightmare was far from over. Captain Maria Lopez led the first wave of human pursuit ships. Her destroyer squadron had been modified with captured Zephyrian technology, making them faster and more deadly than anything in their original design specifications. "All ships, maintain pursuit formation," she commanded. "Don't let any of them escape." The human pursuit was unlike anything the Zephyrians had ever experienced. Most species they conquered fought defensively, trying to protect their homeworlds. When defeated, they accepted their fate. But the humans were different. They hunted their enemies with a determination that bordered on obsession. Dr. Benjamin Clark worked around the clock in his mobile laboratory aboard the human flagship. He had been analyzing captured Zephyrian technology since the battle began, and his discoveries were changing everything. "General Collins, I've cracked their navigation systems," he reported over the secure communication channel. "What does that mean for our pursuit?" Collins asked from Earth. "It means we can track every ship in their fleet, no matter where they go," Benjamin replied. "Their technology leaves a unique energy signature that we can follow across the galaxy." This breakthrough changed the nature of the pursuit entirely. What had begun as a chase through Earth's solar system was about to become an interstellar hunt. The Zephyrians thought they could escape by jumping to faster-than-light travel, but they were wrong. Commander Ashley Rodriguez coordinated the expanded pursuit from her command ship. She had been chosen to lead the operation because of her expertise in long-range tactical operations. All pursuit groups, we have confirmed tracking data on the enemy fleet. Begin Phase 2 operations. The human ships activated their own faster-than-light drives, technology that had been reverse-engineered from decades of studying crashed alien vessels. But the humans had improved upon the original designs, making their ships faster and more maneuverable than their Zephyrian counterparts. Admiral Kexithara believed his fleet was safe once they entered hyperspace. No species had ever pursued the Zephyrian Empire across interstellar distances. Their enemies always stayed near their homeworlds, content to survive the initial assault. "Set course for the Kepler station," he ordered. "We need to regroup and report this disaster to the Emperor." But as his fleet dropped out of hyperspace near the Kepler station, a Zephyrian supply outpost 3 light-years from Earth, they found human ships waiting for them. Sergeant Tim Kelly led the boarding operations against crippled Zephyrian vessels. His teams had been trained for zero-gravity combat in hostile alien environments. They moved through the alien ships with deadly efficiency, securing technology and gathering intelligence. "This is incredible," Kelly reported to his commanders. "These ships have detailed maps of Zephyrian space, including the locations of their military bases and supply lines." Engineer Lucy Thompson was aboard one of the captured vessels, working to understand Zephyrian technology from the inside. "I'm learning how to operate their systems," she told Captain Walsh. "Give me a few more hours, and I can show you how to turn their own weapons against them." The humans were not just pursuing the Zephyrian fleet. They were systematically capturing and analyzing everything they could find. Each captured ship provided more intelligence about the alien empire, making the human pursuit more effective and more dangerous. Lieutenant Colonel Chris Davis received new orders from Earth as his squadron tracked fleeing Zephyrian vessels through space. "Command wants us to expand operations," he told his officers. "We're not just hunting the invasion fleet anymore. We're targeting Zephyrian infrastructure." This marked a fundamental shift in human strategy. They were no longer content to simply repel an invasion. They intended to ensure that the Zephyrian Empire could never threaten Earth again. Dr. Rachel Adams worked from her laboratory ship, developing new technologies based on captured alien systems. Her breakthrough came when she successfully reverse-engineered Zephyrian communication technology. "I can intercept their transmissions," she reported excitedly. "We can listen to their communications and learn about their military operations." The intelligence gathered from these communications was devastating to Zephyrian operations. Human forces learned the locations of supply convoys, the positions of military bases, and the movements of other Zephyrian fleets throughout the galaxy. Admiral Kexithara was trying to reach his superiors when he realized that his communications were being intercepted. Human ships appeared wherever he tried to establish supply lines or request reinforcements. It was as if the humans could predict his every move. "How are they doing this?" he demanded of his intelligence officers. "We believe they have compromised our communication systems," came the terrifying reply. "They may be listening to everything we say." The psychological impact of this realization was devastating to Zephyrian morale. Their crews began to understand that they were not just facing a technologically advanced enemy, but one that was systematically dismantling their empire's operational capabilities. Commander Nathan Green led deep space operations against Zephyrian supply lines. His ships attacked convoys and outposts throughout the region, cutting off resources that the alien empire needed for its military operations. "Target confirmed destroyed," he reported after eliminating another supply depot. Moving to next objective. The humans had transformed from defenders to predators in a matter of days. They hunted Zephyrian ships across multiple star systems, showing no mercy and offering no quarter to their enemies. Dr. Jennifer Stone worked to decode Zephyrian strategic communications from her position aboard the intelligence ship. "I'm reading massive fleet movements," she reported to Admiral Sandra Mitchell, who had taken command of the expanding human operations. "They're trying to organize a response to our attacks." "How long do we have?" Mitchell asked. "Based on their communication patterns, they're at least 2 weeks away from organizing any significant counterattack," Stone replied. "But they're getting desperate. Some of their messages suggest they're considering extreme measures." This intelligence led to an acceleration of human operations. If the Zephyrians were planning something drastic, the humans needed to strike first. Captain Julie Baker led strike forces against identified Zephyrian military installations. Her ships carried weapons that combined human innovation with captured alien technology, making them devastatingly effective against Zephyrian defenses. "Installation 7 is destroyed," she reported after another successful attack. "All enemy personnel eliminated. We're moving to the next target." The scope of human operations continued to expand. What had begun as the defense of Earth had become a systematic campaign to cripple the Zephyrian Empire's ability to wage war. General Ryan Murphy coordinated these expanding operations from his command ship. "All units, maintain pressure on enemy positions," he ordered. "We cannot allow them time to regroup or organize a counterattack." But the humans were planning something that would end the Zephyrian threat forever. As their pursuit continued, across the galaxy, they were preparing for a final operation that would send a message to every potential enemy of Earth. The Zephyrian Empire was about to learn that threatening humanity carried a price that few species could afford to pay. And that price would be paid not just by the invasion fleet, but by everyone who had supported the decision to attack Earth. Admiral Kexathera's fleet continued to shrink as human forces picked off stragglers and damaged ships. He was beginning to realize that very few of his vessels would survive to return home. But he had no idea that the humans were planning to ensure that even those survivors would carry a message that would haunt the Zephyrian Empire forever. The hunt continued across multiple star systems as human forces pursued the remnants of the Zephyrian invasion fleet. What had started as a defensive action around Earth had evolved into something far more comprehensive and terrifying. The humans were not content to simply drive off their attackers. They were systematically dismantling the Zephyrian Empire's ability to wage war. Captain Nathan Green had been leading hunter-killer operations for 3 weeks. His ships had tracked down and destroyed dozens of Zephyrian vessels attempting to flee back to their home territory. "Contact bearing 27 Mark IV, his sensor operator reported. "Single vessel appears to be damaged." "Move to intercept," Green ordered. "Standard procedure. Disable their engines first, then demand surrender." This had become the pattern of human operations. They would track down fleeing Zephyrian ships, disable them, and offer the crews a choice: surrender and provide intelligence, or be destroyed. Most chose surrender. Dr. Rachel Adams had revolutionized human intelligence gathering with her breakthrough in Zephyrian communication technology. From her laboratory ship, she monitored transmissions across dozens of star systems. "I'm detecting panic in their military communications," she reported to Admiral Sandra Mitchell. "Their high command is trying to organize a response, but they can't locate our forces." The humans had learned to use Zephyrian technology against its creators. They could monitor alien communications while keeping their own transmissions completely hidden. This gave them an enormous tactical advantage that they exploited ruthlessly. Lieutenant Colonel Chris Davis commanded operations in the Outer Rim, where Zephyrian supply lines were most vulnerable. His forces had destroyed 17 supply convoys in the past week alone. "Target convoy eliminated," he reported after another successful attack. "All cargo vessels destroyed, escort ships disabled." But Davis and his crews were doing more than just destroying supplies. They were capturing Zephyrian personnel and gathering intelligence about the Empire's military structure and strategic capabilities. Dr. Jennifer Stone worked around the clock to analyze this intelligence. Her discoveries were reshaping human understanding of their enemy. "The Zephyrian Empire is larger than we initially thought," she reported to the command staff. "They control over 200 star systems and have military forces scattered across the galaxy." This revelation led to an expansion of human operations. If the Zephyrian Empire was truly that large, then simply defeating the invasion fleet would not be enough to ensure Earth's safety. They needed to send a message that would prevent future attacks. Engineer Monica Campbell had been working with captured Zephyrian technology for weeks. Her breakthroughs in understanding alien systems had given human forces capabilities they never thought possible. "I've figured out how to modify their navigation computers," she reported to Colonel Derek Thompson. "We can control where their ships go." This discovery opened up new possibilities for human psychological warfare. They could capture Zephyrian vessels and send them wherever they wanted, carrying whatever message they chose to transmit. Admiral Sandra Mitchell studied the tactical situation from her flagship. Human forces now controlled a significant portion of local space, having eliminated or captured most of the Zephyrian military presence in the region. "What's the status of the fleeing fleet?" she asked her operations officer. "We've reduced them to approximately 50 vessels," came the reply. "Most are damaged and running low on supplies. Admiral Kexathara's flagship is among the survivors, but it's badly damaged." Mitchell nodded. The time had come to implement the final phase of their operation. "Signal all pursuit groups. Begin Operation Message Bearer." This was the plan that human leadership had been developing since the pursuit began. They would allow some Zephyrian ships to return home, but those ships would carry a message that would ensure the Empire never threatened Earth again. Captain Julie Baker received her orders while tracking the largest group of surviving Zephyrian vessels. "All ships, new targeting priorities," she announced to her squadron. "We're going to let some of them go home, but first we're going to make sure they understand what happened here." The next phase of operations was unlike anything in military history. Human forces began systematically capturing Zephyrian crews rather than destroying their ships. These prisoners were forced to watch detailed recordings of the battle for Earth and the subsequent pursuit operations. Captain Adam Wilson supervised the psychological operations aboard one of the prison ships. "Make sure they see everything," he told his staff. "I want them to understand exactly what happens when someone threatens humanity." The captured Zephyrian crews were shown footage of their fleet being destroyed around Earth. They watched human ships hunt down their comrades across multiple star systems. They saw their supply lines being cut and their military installations being destroyed. But the most devastating part of the recordings was the documentation of human technological capabilities. The prisoners learned that Earth had been preparing for alien contact for decades, that humanity possessed weapons and defenses far beyond what the Zephyrian intelligence had suggested. Dr. Monica Campbell worked with the psychological operations team to ensure the message was clear. "They need to understand that this wasn't luck or desperation," she explained. "This was a deliberate and comprehensive defeat of their entire invasion force." The recordings also showed the extent of human cooperation. The Zephyrians learned that Earth's nations had put aside their differences to create a unified defense against alien threats. They saw evidence of the global infrastructure that had been built in secret, waiting for this moment. Commander Derek Thompson oversaw the selection of which ships would be allowed to return to Zephyrian space. "We want 17 vessels," he told his staff, "enough to carry our message but few enough to demonstrate the scale of their defeat." The number 17 was chosen carefully. Out of 200 ships that had attacked Earth, only 17 would return. This ratio would send a clear message about the consequences of threatening humanity. But the humans had one more surprise for their enemies. The 17 ships that would be allowed to return were not just carrying recordings and traumatized crews. They were also carrying human technology. Engineer Lucy Thompson led the team that modified the returning Zephyrian vessels. Each ship will have monitoring equipment installed, she explained to the command staff. We'll be able to track their movements and monitor their communications even after they return home. This meant that the human intelligence network would extend deep into Zephyrian space. Earth would know if the Empire attempted to organize another attack, and they would be able to strike first if necessary. Admiral Kexthera found himself among the crews selected to return home. His flagship was heavily damaged, his crew was demoralized, and his military career was effectively over, but he was alive, which was more than could be said for most of his fleet. "Why are they letting us go?" his first officer asked. Kexthera stared at the tactical displays showing the positions of human ships throughout the region. "Because they want us to carry a message," he replied grimly. "They want the Empire to know what happened here." The psychological impact of the human operations was already being felt throughout Zephyrian space. Reports of the disaster had reached the Empire's leadership, causing panic and confusion at the highest levels of government. General Ryan Murphy coordinated the final phases of the operation from his command ship. "All units, prepare for the return journey to Earth," he ordered. "Mission objectives have been achieved. The human forces had accomplished something unprecedented in galactic history. They had not only defeated an invasion by a superior alien empire, but they had also pursued their enemies across interstellar space and systematically dismantled their military capabilities in the region." As the 17 surviving Zephyrian ships began their journey home, they carried with them the most devastating military intelligence in their empire's history. They had witnessed the complete destruction of what was supposed to be an easy conquest, and they understood that humanity was far more dangerous than anyone had imagined. The humans had sent a message that would resonate throughout the galaxy. Earth was not a target for conquest. It was a world protected by beings who would hunt their enemies to the ends of the universe and show no mercy to those who threatened their home. The 17 Zephyrian ships limped through space toward their home territory, carrying the survivors of the greatest military disaster in their empire's history. Admiral Kexthera sat in his damaged command chair, staring at displays that showed the extent of his fleet's destruction. Out of 200 vessels that had departed for Earth with such confidence, only these 17 remained. But something was wrong with the returning ships. The crews that had once been proud warriors of the Zephyrian Empire were now broken and traumatized. They spoke in whispers, when they spoke at all. Many refused to eat or sleep, haunted by what they had witnessed. Commander Julie Baker watched the departing alien ships from her position aboard the human flagship. The final phase of Operation Message Bearer was now complete. "Tracking confirms all 17 vessels are maintaining course for Zephyrian space," she reported to Admiral Sandra Mitchell. "And our monitoring equipment?" Mitchell asked. "Functioning perfectly," replied Engineer Lucy Thompson. "We'll be able to track their movements and intercept their communications throughout their journey home." This was perhaps the most sophisticated psychological warfare operation in human history. The returning ships were not just carrying survivors, they were carrying a carefully crafted message designed to prevent future attacks on Earth. Captain Adam Wilson had supervised the final interviews with the Zephyrian crews before their departure. "They understand what they witnessed," he reported. "The recordings we showed them documented every aspect of their defeat. They know that Earth was prepared for their attack and that humanity possesses military capabilities far beyond their initial intelligence." The recordings were indeed comprehensive. They showed the moment when Earth's hidden defenses came online, revealing weapons that should not have existed on a supposedly primitive world. They documented the systematic destruction of the Zephyrian fleet and the relentless pursuit that followed. But the most disturbing part of the recordings for the Zephyrian crews was the evidence of human coordination and preparation. They learned that Earth's nations had been secretly working together for decades, building defenses and developing technologies specifically designed to repel alien invasions. Dr. Monica Campbell had worked with the psychological operations team to ensure the message would have maximum impact. "The survivors will carry more than just recordings," she explained to Colonel Derek Thompson. "They'll carry the psychological trauma of witnessing their empire's military might, being completely overwhelmed by a species they thought was primitive. As the Zephyrian ships traveled through space, their crews began to show signs of complete psychological breakdown. The journey home would take several weeks, and during that time, the weight of their failure and the horror of what they had witnessed gradually destroyed their sanity. Admiral Kexathara tried to maintain discipline among his remaining crews, but it was a losing battle. Officers who had once commanded with authority now jumped at shadows. Veterans of dozens of successful conquests wept openly when they thought no one was watching. "Sir, we're receiving a transmission from the human ships," his communications officer reported with a trembling voice. "On screen," Kexathara ordered, though he dreaded what he might see. The image that appeared was not threatening or boastful. It was simply General Jack Collins, sitting calmly in what appeared to be a standard military office on Earth. "Admiral Kexathara," Collins said in a measured tone, "I want you to deliver a message to your Emperor and your military command." The recording continued with Collins speaking directly to the camera. "The Zephyrian Empire made a grave error in judgment when it decided to attack Earth. Your intelligence was incomplete, and your assumptions were wrong. We have been preparing for contact with hostile alien species for over 70 years. The Yao general paused, allowing his words to sink in. "Your fleet attacked a world that was ready for you. Your invasion failed not because of luck, but because humanity had built defenses specifically designed to counter threats like yours." Collins leaned forward slightly. "Let me be clear about what happened here. Your 200 ships were not defeated by desperate resistance from a primitive world. They were systematically destroyed by a coordinated defense network that spans our entire solar system and beyond." The message continued with detailed specifications of human military capabilities. Collins described weapons systems, defense networks, and technologies that made it clear Earth was far from defenseless. He spoke of international cooperation that had lasted decades and of preparations that had anticipated exactly the kind of attack the Zephyrians had launched. "But most importantly," Collins concluded, "I want your leaders to understand that what happened to your fleet was not the full extent of Earth's capabilities. We allowed 17 of your ships to return home so that you could carry this message. We could have destroyed every single vessel, but we chose to let you live so you could warn others." The recording ended with a simple statement that would haunt the Zephyrian Empire for generations. "Earth is protected. Any future attacks will be met with the complete destruction of the attacking force, followed by retaliatory strikes against the homeworld of the attackers. Choose your next actions carefully." As the weeks passed during their journey home, the psychological condition of the Zephyrian crews continued to deteriorate. Ship captains reported to Admiral Kexathara that their personnel were becoming increasingly unstable. "Captain Velthon has locked himself in his quarters," reported one officer. "He won't speak to anyone. Commander Zixara keeps repeating the same phrase over and over. They were waiting for us. They were ready." The trauma was spreading through the fleet like a disease. These were experienced military personnel who had participated in dozens of successful conquests, but nothing in their training had prepared them for what they had experienced at Earth. Dr. Rachel Adams monitored the returning ships from her position with the human fleet. The surveillance equipment installed on the Zephyrian vessels was providing valuable intelligence about the psychological state of the survivors. "Their communications are becoming increasingly erratic," she reported. "Many of the crew members are showing signs of complete mental breakdown. This was exactly what the human command had hoped to achieve. The 17 ships would return to Zephyrian space carrying not just information about Earth's defenses, but living proof of the psychological impact of challenging humanity. Meanwhile, back on Earth, the world's leaders were dealing with the aftermath of First Contact. The secret defense programs were no longer secret, and humanity was coming to terms with the reality that they were not alone in the universe. General Collins addressed the United Nations in a session that was broadcast worldwide. "The threat to Earth has been eliminated," he announced. "But this event has shown us that we must be prepared for future contact with alien civilizations." The revelation of Earth's hidden defense capabilities sparked a new era of human space exploration and military development. Technologies that had been secret for decades were now being adapted for civilian use. The world had changed forever. Captain Nathan Green led the final human patrols in the region where the battle had taken place. His ships collected the debris from destroyed Zephyrian vessels and secured any remaining alien technology. "Area clear of hostile contacts," he reported. "All objectives secured." The human forces began their return journey to Earth, having accomplished something unprecedented in galactic history. They had not only defended their homeworld against a superior alien force, but they had also sent a message that would resonate throughout the galaxy. As the 17 Zephyrian ships finally reached the border of their empire's space, they were met by Imperial patrol vessels. The patrol commanders were shocked by what they found. The returning ships were barely functional. Their crews were traumatized beyond recognition, and the stories they told were almost impossible to believe. Admiral Kexathara was brought before the Zephyrian High Command to explain the disaster. He stood in the great chamber where he had once been celebrated as a hero of the Empire, now facing disgrace and likely execution. "Explain how you lost an entire fleet to a primitive world," demanded Emperor Zefthal. "They were not primitive," Kexathara replied in a broken voice. "Our intelligence was wrong. They had been preparing for us for decades. They had weapons we could not match and defenses we could not penetrate." The Emperor's rage was terrible to behold. "You lost 200 ships to creatures who still use chemical rockets." "No, my Emperor," Kexathara said quietly. "They wanted us to think they still used chemical rockets. Their real technology is equal to or superior to our own, and they fight with a determination that defies explanation." The recordings that the human ships had forced the survivors to watch were presented to the High Command. The Zephyrian leaders watched in growing horror as they saw their mighty invasion fleet being systematically destroyed by an enemy they had thought was defenseless. But perhaps the most terrifying aspect of the recordings was the evidence of human planning and preparation. The aliens realized that Earth had been ready for their attack long before they had even decided to launch it.